Mark Rogers TV talking Ohio State football with Brandon Zimmerman, Buckeye Battle Cry. Brandon, it's a guy who Buckeye fans have been familiar with for a few years now, but in terms of the national spotlight, that has shown on Zeke Elliott, and Samuel fought him for the job a couple years ago. But of course, Elliott now playing with the Dallas Cowboys, that was a difficult mountain to climb in regards to getting playing time. But he's been a guy that's run the football from the traditional running back spot. Been an H-back. You split him out wide. He's just a nightmare of a matchup for defenses. And we're, of course, talking about Curtis Samuel, who came up big again at Oklahoma.
Yes, I mean, Curtis Samuel's had a very interesting time in Columbus. He came to Ohio State as a pretty heralded running back. Played his freshman year at running back. He backed up Zeke. Had some pretty impressive runs. Got some people excited about just his ability out there. Last year, they moved him out to wide receiver because they kind of needed to try to find a way to get him onto the field, but they were kind of doing that with a few different players. They were teaching Braxton Miller how to play wide receiver. Jalen Marshall was moving from H-back out to wide receiver. So, you know, from going to running back to wide receiver, this year he slid firmly into that H-back role, and it's kind of worked out perfectly that he has been a running back his freshman year, a wide receiver his sophomore year, and now his junior year, it's kind of putting everything together, and he just looks like the perfect person for that role.
260 yards rushing, 8.1 per carry this year. He's just been dominant in space. 16 receptions, leads the team by a number of catches, 259 yards and 2 touchdowns. And again, a back that, if you look at the stats, fought Zeke Elliott 2 years ago for carries and gained about 600 yards rushing. Then it was a complete reversal last year with only 17 rushing attempts and was used primarily in the passing game. And bam, here it is in 2016. He's used in both situations, and who knows, at this point, although Mike Weber is going to lead the team in rushing, you would think Curtis Samuel is going to be a guy that's going to fill up the stat sheet top to bottom.
Yeah, and you know, even though Mike Weber is the starter back there, having the experience and the versatility of Curtis Samuel is really something that Urban Meyer has been able to lean on. If you notice, even in the first quarter of the Sooner game, when the stadium was just going crazy, the crowd was going crazy, Curtis Samuel was the one that was getting the carries. Mike Weber, I want to say, only had maybe 1 carry in the first quarter. So I think the coaching staff leans on Samuel. They like having him around. And he's a good, you know, kind of safety valve to ease Mike Weber into these big games until he gets more comfortable with it, because this was the most raucous atmosphere that, you know, Mike Weber's played in front of, you know, because Bowling Green and Tulsa at home isn't going to bring quite what Saturday night was there in the first quarter.
Right, Curtis Samuel, a top 50 prospect, according to all the major recruiting services out of Brooklyn. Talking Rivals, Scout, ESPN had him at 153 in the top 300, and he certainly is showing us why here in 2016 in particular. Brandon Zimmerman from Buckeye Battle Cry breaking down the game of Curtis Samuel. Thanks, Brandon.
All right, thank you, Mark.